Mrs. Green Apple, we are continuing the track by track listen through to the Antenna album, and I can't believe we're already on the penultimate track. I don't know whether this is just because Attitude was a longer album, or whether it's just because of the fact that obviously I've had to be recording this in little batches, and so much has happened in the period of time that I've been doing this that it just feels like time's flown, perhaps. I don't know really why, but it does feel like we're rushing towards the end. Maybe it's because I've been recording these more frequently as I've been enjoying the experience so much and getting more and more into the band. But here we are. It's the penultimate track. It's called BFF, which, if anyone doesn't know that young kids speak modern lingo like I do, that means best friends forever. I made myself look old there, didn't I? Anyway, we're going to be checking this one out, and as I mentioned, one of the things that for me is most exciting about seeing the end of this album is obviously that the end of this album is pretty much all songs with no videos, so no visual cues to let us know what's going to happen, and seemingly songs that were written just for the love of it because there was no intention of releasing them with some big expensive budgeted music video anyway. So these are just songs that the band made because they wanted to make them. Now, as well as listening to the songs, obviously we also consider how they sort of flow in the order of the album. And this is the penultimate track. And, penultimate tracks are always interesting on albums because, well, obviously, I mean, the final track is obviously always a big thing on the album. The first and last track. Always really interesting to see how an artist bookends the album. But the penultimate one is how you set things up. Sometimes the penultimate track leads into the final track. Sometimes it's something totally different, so the final track feels more significant. But, I don't know. I'm just kind of like spitballing my thought process going into this, but as mentioned, I have no idea what to expect. So here we are. We're going to enjoy BFF by Mrs. Green Apple. As always, big thank you to everyone who gets in the comments and tells me more about the background of the songs, gives your opinions as well. And hello to anyone who's new. I will say that I notice I get comments almost every time I do one of these saying, Howard, you should check out the live version. You should check out the live version. Oh, that's hotter than I thought it was going to be. That was like 10 minutes ago and it's still boiling. Whew. Anyway, regarding the live versions, I have recorded the video. I might post it sometime soon, just explaining for people who are new to the channel why I don't do the live versions usually, but I am thinking at some point to come back and kind of do like a long video where I review several songs, songs that I've enjoyed from past Mrs. Green Apple and past other artists as well, like Ado, songs by those artists and putting them together to make one big live reaction video thing. Anyway, I'll explain it another time, but just in case you're wondering, you don't have to type Howard, check out the live version. It's something that I'm going to be thinking about anyway, but we don't usually do live on this channel. We're usually focused just purely on the raw creativity of the songwriting, and that's what we get from things like the album version. So let's hear it as it was originally created in the studio. And BFF is the song we're going to be checking out now. So let's get straight into it because I've been talking for quite a while, haven't I? Check the sound is on. Sort of thing you should do before you start doing the reaction. But let's enjoy. Sounds like it's a totally different person. Again, a lot of those crisp sounds we're used to from Mrs. Green Apple. Little. All those little sharp runs of notes. Nice.
君が眠れない夜は適当にやり過ごせるようにゲームでもしてたら逃げてゆく悪魔を追い出そうよいつでも懐かしいと笑えるように当たり前でありますようにバカみたいな僕の夢をバカみたいに信じてくれてやるせないそんな今日でも僕には君がいる見失う明日の自信も一人になるそんな恐怖も大丈夫揺るがない君には僕がいるありがとう今日もただ一緒に忘れることはないただ永遠に
Yeah, I am getting, it's a totally different song, but I'm getting a bit of a circle vibe in the way that this is just deliberately avoiding adding a beat.
何かが弾ける音がした覚えているかな僕たちが不安
Interesting, now the guitar's marching and the piano's expressing.
し僕が眠れない夜はどこかへ行ってしまわないよ変わらずそばにいてあげてほしい鎧は脱げない日こそいつでも懐かしいと涙できるように当たり前でありますように起こした奇跡の数を数えること忘れてね模索者できるのはそう手を取ってくれる君がいるから見渡せない未来の土地も人を愛せないそんな恐怖も大丈夫あなたなら
He's singing at the higher register, so every time he goes down for a low note, you feel it.
ありがとう今日もただ一緒に
Ooh, bit of muted guitar. We're building to something. Love that piano.
たくなるような
Soft,
鎖のような儚いような説明がつかない奇跡の先祖だバカみたいな僕の夢をバカみたいに信じてくれた消えてしまいたい夜でも僕には君がいる見失う明日の自信も一人になるそんな恐怖も大丈夫僕らならあの日の僕らが言うありがとう今日もただ一緒に忘れることはないただ永遠に
So well signposted. So well signed. I really love how you get a lot of cues of what's going to happen. I'll explain what I mean in a second. It's interesting how it was 4 seconds left, is there? No, it's just the silence to give a pause before the last song, which of course we'll check out in the next video. I love how it begins and ends on the vocals as well. That's a really nice touch. It says a lot for his range that when he came in on that first note, I was like, is this someone else? So just to quickly say, because I sometimes mention this in Mrs. Green Apple songs when I talk about there being like cues that make it very kind of everything feels intuitive by the end of the song. And what I mean by that is that rather than you have some songs where they just kind of repeat things over and over again, and so you kind of get familiar and you kind of know what to sing along by the end. But what is quite nice is that it's like the songwriting equivalent of when you have a movie with a big reveal at the end. And the reveal always feels good when it happens. And then in your head, you can start putting together all the things you've just seen and saying, oh, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Now everything makes sense. What I really like about the Mrs. Green Apple songs is there's often a lot of these little sort of rhythmic changes and things that you can kind of almost feel coming because there's little signposts towards them earlier in the song, like little movements in the song where rather than just repeating over and over again, you kind of get a feel for how the way the song's moving. It makes it kind of it's kind of complicated because it's through various different things, but it makes it very clear how he resolves certain phrases. And yeah, you just kind of end up getting a feeling just from putting together all the parts in the earlier part of the song, how it's going to end. I guess in a way it is just kind of like you're waiting for certain things to come around again. But without sort of like going through this and picking apart each individual bit, I find that with most Mrs. Green Apple songs, when they get to the end, you really feel like you've learned how he's structuring it. And the ending always feels kind of, well, I would say in every occasion I can think of, feels like a very rewarding, nice way of concluding everything you've heard before. But anyway, just That's a little bit of a nebulous kind of subject I'm trying to bring into a concise point and perhaps failing to. But more specifically in regards to this song, though, this has that beautiful quality of, again, doing the thing that seems to be the case in every Mrs. Green Apple song. So we're going to put a couple of sounds, have something very much pan to the left, very much pan to the right. You know, you've got usually your bass and drums in the middle, but here it's more about having like the central instruments, the mid-range instruments of the piano and the guitar, usually panned to each side, again panned to each side here, and therefore playing things that beautifully play off of each other. I do think this is like the quintessential Mrs. Green Apple quality that comes up in all of their arrangements. Very nicely done here. I was really interested how at the beginning it was the piano was just dum dum dum, just sort of marching on the beat, and then while it was doing that and playing the chords each time, the guitar was kind of just doing little bits of runs, little bits of expression, moving around a little bit more, a little bit off rhythm. And then I was really impressed when we got into the second verse, and simple technique, just switched. So now we got the guitar on this side is now just doing the jum, 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 and now the piano becomes expressive. Very simple thing, just role reversal. But of course, the piano, as well as being a very different sounding instrument, when it does its little expressive movements, it does them in a very different way from guitar. Because obviously, you know, guitar, you think about, you know, where your hands move between the strings and everything, and what notes are available, and how you can kind of gently and naturally, fluidly move between notes. Whereas obviously in a piano or a keyboard, the notes are all in front of you, so you tend to move in much more, you tend to be more free to really kind of move between notes because everything's in front of you, and I think it's just kind of more of a natural playing field. So the kind of notes and expressive like sequences of notes that you play are going to be very different on a guitar, where the notes are aligned differently to how they are in a piano. So not only is it a different sound, but you get a very different kind of fun, expressive playing in that second verse then from the instrument that is playing in a more ad-libbed manner. But it was interesting because I thought they were going to do more with the piano, but then during the second verse, the kind of like there was like an electroacoustic guitar coming across on the left-hand side, and that started to become much more prominent, and the song really, just checking my headphones the right way around, and they sort of like built up a lot more as that as the song went on. But yeah, by the end it was just this beautiful balance between vocals, seemingly like a couple of guitars and the piano, and that really led into, then you had a final key change, and at no point did sort of bass and drums or really any rhythm section come in at all, and that reminded me in a way of Circle, which I think that's the penultimate track on Attitude, isn't it? Circle's the penultimate track there as well. In which case, similar trick played twice. I respect it, because these two songs are very different. It was the same trick, but a very different type of song in many other ways. I did also like the vocal performance. Again, it kind of almost seems redundant saying too much about the vocals, because he's great on every song I've ever heard. Never heard him have any trouble. It's only on certain ones, like Blizzard, where I feel like his vocals are used in a way that maybe I'm not so keen on, or ones like, ironically, Circle, where I feel like his voice is used just to its absolute best effect. Those are the ones where I tend to like speak about it more, but on both songs there's like not much to say except for he sings really well, and again, he nailed it here. Beautiful use of expression. Loved the way that he bounced between the falsetto high notes and then going down to those lower notes, and it was really interesting at a couple of moments where he came off of the falsetto and he came down, and you really felt him sort of like grab the power of those more normal vocal range singing notes when he went down to them. So there was a lot of really cool things going on in the vocal line to this, but yeah, this was a nice, simple, calming song, and in a similar way to how, sorry to keep on referencing it, in a similar way to how Circle provided a little bit of a break, a bit of a change of tone towards the end of Attitude. I feel like this provides that nice little change of tone towards the end of Antenna, and of course means that we'll be launching into our final track off the back of this with a sort of calm energy. So you can kind of do anything. You can build up a ballad from this into a bigger place, or you can just come straight in with the, you ready? Now it's time for the big finale. Who knows what it's going to be? Well, presumably, I'm guessing most of the people watching this have probably already heard the album. But either way, I'm going to be checking out Feeling in the next video. So as always, get in the comments, tell me what you think. And until hopefully see you very soon in Japan, or at least where I am right now in Korea, for the next one of these. Until then, for now, ciao, ciao.